discussion, I will take a motion on the minutes, please. Have a motion on the minutes with a second to that motion. Minutes will stand without objection. Ordinances on final reading. We have some planning items that we covered vote last week. If you have any questions, I'll be watching the board for your light on any of the items we covered last week. Seeing no lights, we'll go into ordinances on first reading. We do have a planning item that probably needs a little clarification on item A. And Karen, do you helm on planning version 3 for case number 0226, please? And Councilman Henderson, if you need the light, just hit your button.
What are you asking for?
This is in, it's okay. This is in your district, sir. We had I think we had a glitch on case 0226 that we are, we'll turn over. Karen, you want to tell us why we have a planning version?
Yeah,
three
I was
for
going to
first
say,
reading?
and Bill can.
This was presented last week on first reading, and I realized after it had been read that the ordinance part of the C3, this is the Black Creek property at the top of the mountain. And so we had inadvertently did not pass those along to the city attorney's office to add the conditions in. So this does add the C3 conditions. So the rezoning is to RTZ without conditions and C3 business zone with conditions. And there's a long list of conditions. And I called the applicant and explained what was happening, and just took the opportunity to make sure the right conditions with the right references were included as part of the ordinance. So I don't believe they have any concerns.
All right. We good, Councilman Henderson, now?
I am.
Okay. Fantastic. And that will obviously take that back to first reading. We have a couple of items deferred from District 5. Madam Vice Chair, you are good. Councilman Hester, are we good? Good. You have the floor, sir.
You know that I've had several meetings with the community regarding this, and we've compiled a lot of data on the on that hotel, and I became a public nuisance to the community, and we noticed that it's the third time this hotel has changed management, and seems like the same problem reoccurs every time. So I think at this time, we cannot approve this rezoning. We will not approve it at this time.
So this is in reference to, for clarification, case 0195.
0195, correct.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
We will look for your motion at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Madam Vice Chair, we covered items in District 7. We are now moving to resolutions under council office. We have several appointments. And Dr. Burrs, you have quite a few of them. Very good. Congratulations. Are any of those appointments happen to be here today? Always like to recognize them and thank them for their service to our community. So, okay, maybe they'll be here at 6 o'clock, Dr. Burrs. Economic development, 2 items. Planning, no questions. I see no lights across the board. Take a look at our purchases for. We have 6 purchases, no emergency purchases, and no RFPs. But I do believe Mr. Goldberg would like to address us on items regarding Amazon and also our finance items. Mr. Goldberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to touch on a couple of these now in case you have questions, because my son has a basketball game this evening, and while I enjoy being with all of you, I choose to go to his game instead. So I will not be here at 6 p.m. The couple that I wanted to touch on are the for Amazon. That is a request to allow us to use Amazon Business to purchase things through the Omnia contract, general supply citywide. That will actually be streamlining a process that, where orders for items that cost $28 or using payment system with Amazon. I've experience with this in our roles when we were at Hamilton County Schools, and it was successful. And I urge you all to approve this to allow us to use Amazon Business for a more streamlined approach to, small dollar general supplies throughout the city. And then also under finance, excuse me, under finance, PFM Financial Advisory Services, we've had a relationship with them for many years. Their contract expires this year or just expired. We did RFQ. We only received 2 proposals, one from a firm in Knoxville and the other from PFM. And PFM scored the highest, and they are recommended for approval. This will be a 4-year contract, not to exceed $100,000 per year. A lot of their fees are absorbed in the bond issuance cost, but we do have certain things that we utilize them for on a consulting service basis, such as the WIFIA loan. They've helped us quite a bit with the WIFIA loan and navigating that process, as well as different things related to the stadium, to TIFs. We've had sessions with them regarding affordable housing, so they are a very valuable partner. And I also would urge the council to approve that purchase this evening.
Very good. I appreciate the update on especially the Amazon and the financial advisory, because it's not a $250,000 shopping spree with Amazon, in case anybody's following, but this does follow, and Kevin verified this as well this morning, our procurement process. So
Yes.
just.
And people will not be allowed to buy things such as alcohol, tobacco,
Right.
firearms, any of those things. We can actually prohibit those items. And then there's also everything that goes through Amazon still goes through purchasing through the purchase workflow. So we have eyes on everything. It just streamlines the process to buy small dollar items.
Sure. All right. Council, any questions for Mr. Goldberg before he goes to a basketball game? Good luck. All right.
Heading out to Lookout Valley tonight. It should be fun.
All right. He's got a few fans out there. There's no doubt about it. Council, if you would take a
Thank
look
you.
at thank you, sir. November 22nd proposed council agenda. And let me know if you have any questions. Council, I'm seeing. I thought we'd have a couple under mayor's office with the confirmation of Vicky Haley and some guy named Philip A. Noblet. I guess there are no comments. So seeing no lights, we will move into future considerations. If you would, take a look. And hit your light if you have any questions or comments on future considerations. Councilwoman Hill, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. I have not had an opportunity to reach out to Jermaine to find out about this resolution related to the TIF. I don't know if that's about the affordable housing that we deferred. Can anybody enlighten us?
Councilwoman, I do believe that is about the item that was deferred, but I can confirm with Jermaine later today.
Okay. And actually, given that that would be about affordable housing and I have the floor, so might be an appropriate time. Council, I would like to introduce you to Nicole Hayward. She is Nicole, would you mind standing up for us? This is our new Chief Housing Officer. And so I would think that Nicole probably is going to be very closely consulted as part of this TIF remodel.
Yes, absolutely.
TIF
Nicole,
change.
Nicole has hit the ground running, and just as a way of introduction, then I'll turn it over to her to say hello. But Nicole Heyman hails from New Orleans, and she is previous director of the mayor's office of community assets and investment. She led a great team of policy experts to help address problem properties and create equitable investment in the city of New Orleans. And then in a prior role, she was the director of Louisiana initiatives at the Community Center for Community Progress, and she helped eliminate over 10,000 vacant and abandoned properties in the post-Katrina New Orleans landscape. She is very talented. We're very lucky to have her, and I know many, many people are very excited to have her here in Chattanooga, leading the mayor's affordable housing efforts, which has emerged as one of the most important issues facing our community. So I'll give Nicole an opportunity to say hello, but suffice it to say she will be a regular face here at City Council, and we're very excited to have her.
All right, thank you. And not afraid for impromptu public speaking, I see as well.
I'm unfortunately quite used to being put on the spot and appreciate the opportunity to do so. Thank you, Joda, for that very nice introduction. I am so excited to be here, and I hope to work with each and every one of you to learn more about what you guys consider to be affordable housing needs in your districts. I welcome the opportunity to meet individually. I'm very committed to understanding and learning before we take any action. But I also have a sense of urgency and hope to hit the ground running. So some time to meet, some time to understand from the administration, from council, from the residents of this great city, what the needs are. And then let's put a plan together and get moving and do some good work together.
Very good. Welcome
Great.
aboard.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Nicole. And
Welcome.
And then, Chair, also, I brought this up last week, but haven't gotten any information. There are several items under item 9, Office of the City Attorney, related to adopting international building codes, fuel and gas code, mechanical code, plumbing code, et cetera. And I would very much like information about that well in advance so that we can understand what the ramifications are of those adoptions in the event that they affect affordability or public safety or anything.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And earlier this morning, those items did pique my interest as well, especially when I saw the date of 2018.
Mhm.
And as I understand, the body that meets to decide this did meet in 2021, but we have a 7-year window, so to speak. Phil, do you want to explain a little bit more why we're doing 2018
Yes.
and how its impact with the surrounding building community?
And Dallas is here today and does actually have a presentation to show you at least a small PowerPoint if you wish that. That reference here is that we are required under state law to be within 7 years of the most recent edition of the building code, or else we lose our ability to be a local enforcement agency. The state of Tennessee Fire Marshal makes that requirement by law, and Dallas has got a little small presentation about that. The requirements that are involved in this particular edition of the 2018 codes are codes that all of the other cities around us have adopted. The cities around us, with the exception, I believe Red Bank has a 2015 on there, but they're all more recent than we are currently. And we believe that the cost of this particular system will actually save money as opposed to cost additional money. The contractors and engineers and architects are already designing to these standards in our community.
Okay. So are we going to get that presentation during Public Works
He is available.
Committee,
if
Parks
you
and Public
wish,
Works?
Whatever you wish.
Chairman, would you like to see that in Public Works? Is that okay with council? Yep. All right, then Dallas, stay tuned. Have that ready for us, teed up, ready to go, please. All right. Any other questions, Councilwoman? Thank you for those. I appreciate it. That takes us out into department reports, which we have none this afternoon. We do have 2 committees. We will move now into Parks and Public Works, followed by Legislative Committee, if there are no comments or questions or any further business for our agenda session at this time. All right, Councilman Helm, sir. I have lots of stuff.
Do you want to present first or go through the agenda? Okay. Thank you, Chair. Welcome to Parks and Public Works Committee. Can we accept the minutes? Set. We're gonna have a presentation from Alice first.
Are y'all ready? Okay.
Ready? Oh, wow.
Yep, this is very generic, and hopefully it'll explain a few of the issues we have or why we're doing. Out is the enabling legislation from TCA and okay, which way? Sorry. These are the codes that we have proposed to adopt and the chapter in the city code that they appear. Just a picture of them all except for the NFPA. We're not adopting a new version. That is the electrical code. Just kind of an idea what they look like. All right, this right here is what the State of Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, DCA 68-120-101-2A is where it gives us the ability for local jurisdiction to adopt and enforce building, construction, fire safety codes. That is the whole chapter. That is the whole section 101 I gave you guys if you want to read through that. This is section 5, notwithstanding subdivision B2, which has to do with state-owned buildings. The standard is established pursuant to subsection A, and this is where a local government building construction safety publications should be current within 7 years of the date of the latest edition and publication, unless otherwise approved by the state fire marshal in writing. And so far, they have not improved anybody to be less than 7 years. These are local code adoptions. As you can see, Hamilton County has the 2018. They do the inspections for the city of Ridgeside and Walden's Ridge. So they have the 2018 adopted. East Ridge 2018, Collegedale 2018, Family Codes Lakeside 2018, Signal Mountain 2018, Soddy Daisy that has the 2015, and Red Bank is currently under the 2012, such as ourselves, but they are out, talked to them today, and they are in the process of drafting legislation to adopt the 2018. Now, a little background. Currently, the state has the 1 and 2 family dwelling adopted as the 2018 is what the state's using. Believe it or not, the state fire marshal office does not have to comply with the same rules they lay on local jurisdictions. So the state fire marshal is on the 2012, can tell us when they have no idea when they'll ever adopt the 2021. They said it'll be at least a year. So they are looking at it, but to stay current with state law, we had the 2018. We've been looking at it since May, and it's just taking this long to get here. So, but because of what else is going on in the local jurisdictions, that's why we were looking at going to the 2018. I wish the state would go to the 2018 because I could amend the code as the state amended it, but I can't amend it any less than the state adopts it. So that's kind of the dilemma that we're in. I know there were some questions about cost. I got a little data off the National Association of Home Builders Association's website that I can pass around for each of you guys to have. And these are just general summaries that you can go look up if you want to read these whole articles or whole reports. The estimated cost of the 2018 ICC code changes for multifamilies is a 61-page document, but as you can see here, is somewhere between 2,500 and 25,000 per building from the 2015. If you go on down to the estimated cost of the 2018 IRC code changes, it's a 62-page document, but from the 15 to the 18, increase of around $100 and could be a savings up to $600, and that's how you apply the residential code. So if you go down to the 12, that was where the big savings would have been. That's the year they added a whole lot of energy. And that's where it added between $5,000 and $13,000 to the cost of a house. So right now, going to the 18, I mean, I know there were some questions. Like I said, very basic information here. There are 60 to 100-page summary or reports that go with these one-paragraph summaries, but I know that you were looking for a little bit of information, and that's what I pulled together kind of as cost. Home builders, some of the information I had, it seems that a lot of the site requirements are driving the cost of homes up more than the actual building construction itself. Now, it's not taking into consideration ups and downs in material fluctuation. So, you know, that's something I don't think anybody can control. But that's just a little bit of an idea of why we're doing what we're doing. You know, I probably do wish that state would go on to the 2021, but we're going to be off cycle, whatever, because believe it or not, they don't adopt the commercial and the residential code at the same time themselves. So the residential code is in its own world, and they have the 18 adopted now, and the commercial still in the 12. But as stated, they don't have to comply with the same rules local jurisdictions have to comply with. So
Dallas,
really quick, down and dirty, but
you
yes.
do have some questions.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. And we may have to get some additional information. I understand that.
Dr. Burris.
So we have to adopt this in order to be able to amend it locally to no less of a degree than the state already. We can make it tighter, but we can't make it looser.
Correct.
So all of this is about, we got to do it so that then we can look at how we can tighten it or change it or amend it so that it's not any looser. But this is just a pro forma thing, right?
there are proposed amendments. The residential code has amendments from the state that are included in the adoption. What the state has done has stopped the energy code requirements for one family dwelling increases to the 2009 level. So what it basically says is we're going to adopt the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, but we're going to use the tables out of the 2009 to tell you how much insulation to put in your walls and floors.
Yeah, I get that. What I'm saying is we're asked to approve something.
Mhm.
And I believe then that we don't have a choice about that because it becomes the starting point for what we want to do locally. And unless we approve the state's basic whatever it is, then we don't have the freedom to go further.
Well, as we adopt the code, there are amendments in the code that tighten a couple of things up that we've had issues with in the past,
Which is good.
but have been in the old code. So very, very little. The only new changes that would change from the actual letter of the code were what the state said we could amend in the residential code.
All right. So just one more time. Right now, the question before us is adoption of what the state is sending forward. Is that correct? And we don't have much of a choice about adoption because then if we don't adopt it, then we don't have the go-ahead to then do whatever amendments we're allowed to do.
As we adopt it, we can amend it as we adopt it. What we run the risk of is the state saying, hey, you guys aren't doing a good job
Yeah,
with public
that's
safety.
what I'm saying.
We're coming in to inspect.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's what I'm saying.
We're going to do this for you now.
All right.
So
So right now, this is kind of a pro forma thing so that once that's all adopted, then we can look at individual areas. We can't loosen standards.
correct.
But we can tighten them. Is that correct?
We can, okay, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to add one thing to it. Just to make sure that, specifically to your question, there are certain amendments that are already included in our current code, things that we know.
I got
And
that.
so it is not, I guess I just want to make sure it's clear. We're not doing a straight adoption of the code as it's written and published. What will come before you is a slightly amended version, which mirrors similar amendments that we already have in our current code that up to this point have been acceptable. What we may have to do once the state does adopt, then we may have to come back and make some
So
changes.
we
But
don't have a
But what we are
choice.
bringing to you is an amended version of the published code.
Right. So we don't have a choice. I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm saying it's more of a pro forma thing where we have to adopt it and then we're at the starting point to do other things.
Yes, if we
And,
choose
and
to.
if we don't adopt it, then we don't have that freedom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I have a lot to learn about this, but does seem like our fire department's going to sprinkle itself right out of a job. Nothing's going to ever catch on fire again. In all seriousness, one of the things that captured my attention with these code changes is thinking about multifamily buildings and the reality that we need to build a lot of multifamily housing as part of our affordable housing strategy. And what I'm hearing is that when you go from 3 to 4, like thinking about a missing middle solution, for example, to build a quadplex, 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
So when you go from
Yes.
2 to 3, the costs go up significantly. There are requirements related to sprinklers, to metal framing, things like that. And so I'd love for you to put your thinking cap on to help us consider where is our maneuverability within this to think outside of the box to offer builders in Chattanooga and housing folks in Chattanooga some clever solutions to produce housing at an affordable cost. I mean, when we're talking about shows a minimum cost impact for multifamily ranging from 2,500 to 25,000. That's our minimum. And then to go on, if you're required by your local fire marshal to have the fire watch, it could 233,000 to 320. I mean, these margins are so tight that anything can make the numbers not work. So
That's right.
I'd love your input on that moving forward. Not an answer today, but just something to be thinking about,
Well,
please.
I mean, I can comment. It just depends on the designer. The designers don't always, there's a higher grade of construction required, a higher rate of fire resistance required when you don't sprinkle it. If you do. Now, I will say this is the state fire marshal's office that make these rules. And you're correct, but sprinkler systems show they do save a lot of lives, but then you do have reduced construction, fire ratings. You don't have to, like if you don't rate an apartment, the old code required 1 hour separation between everything. If you sprinkle it, you just put drywall on the wall and don't worry about it. So, it's a give and take, and I wouldn't say the fire marshal's office. I would say that the insurance companies are going to put us all out of business. So they have a
Hurricanes are gonna
lot.
put us all out of
They
business.
put a lot in. The code used to say we're here to save lives. Now the code says we're here to save lives and property. So, but you know, it is what it is. It is good. I mean, you have it's all tied by, you know, I say the insurance companies, you know, we got to have them, but the more loss you have insurance, the higher the rate, everybody's rates go up. When you have a good fire department like ours with a low, with a good ISO rating, the rates are lower, the less property. I mean, the insurance industry tracks all that all the time.
Well, I guess to wrap this up, my point would be we need LDO on the team thinking creatively about how real people on the ground, designers, builders, can actually create missing middle housing. And you all know this code better than anybody. So as we move forward, we need LDO and planners and affordable housing and public works all working together toward a common goal. And hopefully removing any barriers that we can when we have a project that is in line with the mayor's One Chattanooga and the city council's affordable housing goals.
And I will say this, the Tennessee Building Officials Association has worked with the fire marshal's office in conjunction with other stakeholders. Like I said, the Home Builders Association has been at the table, not as much with the AGC, more of the AI architects and engineers from the design side, but looking at the code as a whole. I mean, they work, that's why they kept the energy levels at the same place
Yeah,
they
I
were.
follow all that. Like
Yeah.
this is what it is. We have to pass it to Councilwoman Burr's point, but it's how we in Chattanooga work together toward a common goal that I would implore your office to be thinking about.
Well, like I said, I mean, I was just saying we got to go to the state and get those changes. Did you want to say something?
Yeah.
This is Assistant Director.
Ariel Soriano with the Development Review and Permitting. When it comes to the code, the costs are going to be based on decisions and the market. So there's some limited savings you can have there. But on site development, there are some substantial opportunities for savings that have been done in the city of Chattanooga before, in terms of putting in roadway infrastructure, in terms of treating the soils, which are not the best I've ever had to deal with as an engineer. Like, for instance, if you take a look at the road going up Black Creek, that came from our office. That was over $1 million cheaper than the arterial pavement design of the transportation department. That's a real savings. So there are opportunities that are available because of the geography and geology of the city of Chattanooga.
It's very interesting.
You good, Councilwoman Hill? I guess my concern is this, how we see in California the impact of, I guess, energy. They didn't realize how much energy is going to be used as far as electric vehicles. And I think we have to be proactive here too, not to run that same problem in the city of Chattanooga. So I think that's something you guys should look at too, as far as because a lot of folks are buying it, it's impacting consumers. The electric vehicle and all the energy it takes to fuel those things.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't, disagree when you hold the line on energy, that's one thing. You're going to pay energy costs on your house even when you get it paid for. And I don't know, I've never had my energy bills go down. So, if you add a little bit more, but it's what is the breaking point? And that's what these groups get together and try to decide. I will say, during some of my research, here's a fact sheet from the Biden and Harris administration that they are going to make a concerted effort to strengthen building codes, especially energy codes. So, that's, we strengthened the energy codes because years ago there was a push, and the federal government actually said, if you guys don't do it at your level, then, we'll write a national energy code, and nobody wanted that. They were afraid we were going to end up with the Americans with Disability Act all over again for energy. So
Thank you for the
That's where-
presentation. Thank you for my colleagues for their engagement.
Please, if there are any questions, please send them to me. I mean, I feel sometimes we're a little bit kind of hamstrung. We got to do what the state says, but there are opportunities, and I understand the missing middle piece.
Thank you
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Okay. We're ready for the reading of ordinance 6.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer easement located in the 1900 block of North Point Boulevard, tax map number 100PC001, as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
I see no hands. F, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer easement located in the 2500 block of Gun Barrel Road, tax map numbers 149A, B007, 016, and 017.1, as detailed on the attached map.
I see no hands. 7J, please.
A resolution authorizing the waiver of park rental fees for River City Company in support of Reindeer on the Riverfront for the date of November 24th and 25th, 2022, to be held in Ross's Landing, Renaissance Park, and Chattanooga Green for the amount of $2,750.
Thank you. K, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 4 with Hazen and Sawyer for contract number W 17004101 wet weather combined sewer storage phase 1 to extend resident project representation and construction administrative services for an additional 12 months due to contractor delays for an increase of $593,209.25 for a revised contract amount of $3,541,779.87.
Vice Chair Dottley.
Yes, I think, Bill, I know they just walked out, but they covered it last week about the contractor delays. I just want to make sure we got clarity on the cost to the city for these, for the delays. And I just mentioned both, even though L hasn't been read yet, for both K and L.
Ben, can you address that, please?
Yes, Councilman Dottley. Bill did say this morning that that is correct, that those are no additional cost to the city.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. L, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 3 with CDM Smith, Inc. for contract number W12026-102 DuPont Pump Station and Basin Improvements, Phase 2, Contract B, to extend resident project representation and construction administrative services for an additional 6 months due to contractor delays for an increase of $264,937.50 for a revised contract amount of $3,153,132.58.
Okay, no hands. M, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 4 with Arcadis US Inc. for contract number W12027-101 Friars Branch Pump Station Improvements for an additional construction administration and resident project representative services due to a 15-month construction extension due to supplier delays and extensive flooding of the job site, to increase the contract by $39,045.23 for a revised contract total amount of $1,941,239.78.
Thank you. That concludes Parks and Public Works and Parks. At this time, we have Councilman Smith, Legislative Committee. Thank you.
I laid the bag in such a way that if it moves. Thank you, Councilman Hester. We'll call to order the Legislative Committee. Have a motion on the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Minutes stand as recorded. Thank you very much. This afternoon, we have two items on the agenda of council-sponsored legislation, or at least introduced for consideration. The first item on the agenda is a wrecker ordinance update. And Vice Chair Dotley, I believe you brought this to the council. Would you like to take it from here, ma'am?
Yes, please. The record ordinance is something that I wanted to look at updating, especially the rates particularly. Long term, I believe the Beer and Record Board will be broken out into two separate boards. So an overhaul of the entire ordinance may come later on. But to get in alignment with, of course, current inflation and costs to our records, we wanted to look at potentially updating the rates as well as updating some of the language. I believe you all have received the red line version of this to show some of the changes there. And in much of the research I've seen, we are drastically behind with the county, which follows the Tennessee State Patrol, I believe, or Tennessee Highway Patrol, yes, follows Tennessee Highway Patrol rates. So we want to make sure that we're in line and we are as competitive as other markets as well. So that's what this ordinance was about. I did work with several of the towing record companies. I also brought it before the Beer and Record Board, in which we had a public hearing. We didn't have any, I don't believe we have any feedback in the public hearing for that. So now it's here with you all just for open discussion and to see if we want to move forward with some of the changes that we have here.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Are there any questions? Councilman Henderson, sir.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dotley, for bringing this. I know this was, has really been a subject of a topic of discussion for really quite some time. Did the record board actually take a vote on this?
Go ahead.
Yes, the record board did take a vote on this. I want to say they voted in either, I want to say early October. I don't have the date, but they did vote to approve this change as well. So it did come from approval from the record board as well.
Thank you, sir. I see no other questions. And although we do have two members willing to move forward, I will ask if there are any objections to moving this legislation as it is currently drafted in red line form, but the final legislation being put on our order of business in 2 weeks. Seeing no objection, Mr. Attorney, can you make that happen for us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Thank you, Vice Chair Dotley, for doing that. Hopefully, you get a reduction in your rate should you actually need it. All right. Next on the agenda is an update to our noise ordinance. Councilwoman Burrs, I believe this was an item that you had brought to the council's attention for some update and had the city attorney working on it. How would you like to take it from here, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. What we became aware of when we were looking, well, it started with various ones of you and various of your constituents talking about the noise ordinance. That's where it started. And Phil and I sat down and we went through a number of versions, not only of our noise ordinance, but of those in other cities. And it seemed the real issue had to do with noise in residential areas, which had sort of been left out. As we're getting more dense in population, we realized that most of the noise ordinances had to do with downtown or music districts or whatever, but quiet neighborhoods, because neighborhoods have changed in their look and feel, there was very little addressing them. So what we did is we came up with we meaning Phil and me, we came up with several versions and finally said, let's float this with you all because you may want to even red pencil further or change. And so that's what you've got here. Let me tell you what a couple of the issues were. They'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair. If you look at number 2, where it says musical instruments, all right, radio, phonograph, any musical instruments in such a manner with volume, particularly during the hours between 11 and 7. The kinds of things that were being complained about weren't just musical instruments. They were people yelling at one another. And I think we have that covered with the hours. But the loud music was a big one in my district, and they wanted it to stop a little earlier than 11 o'clock, because especially on weeknights, work nights, this sort of thing. So we started thinking, every one of these are complaint driven, which means this doesn't come into effect unless someone complains. So if your neighbor comes over to you and says, hey, I'm having a birthday party and we're going to be outside and whatever, that probably wouldn't generate a complaint. But if there is a complaint about loud music or so, the 11 to 7 is the only one that I saw immediately. Probably should go 9 to 7. If there's a complaint, if there's not a complaint, no harm, no foul. So with that, I'll turn it over to you. Councilman Henderson, we did keep in fireworks. We did put an exception that in Lookout Valley, they can set off fireworks anytime they want, along with the other ridiculous things they do. But anyway, I'm kidding, Jeff. I'm kidding. God, we're a little bit, don't have much levity up here. Anyway, so that's the best. And y'all go ahead and red pencil, however you want to. It's at least a start. Jenny, one of the things that I don't think we've hit right yet are the motorcycles. I know that. And we don't have that right yet, but we did hear. A couple of you also spoke about, I think, Ken, you were one, several of them talked about neighbors yelling at each other. I mean, not across the fence, but maybe having loud fights, when you're trying to relax or go to sleep. I don't know if we've covered that. Several of you talked about loud air conditioners and what do you do about that? The one thing you were unanimous on is what do you call the noise decibel meters? The old law said, you have to hear it from 300 feet and blah, 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 which made no sense in a residential area, especially with PUDs and things being so close, because it's much closer than that. And so there's a lot to go there. And with that, I'm done. You're on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Councilwoman Burrs, I want you to know the first thing I looked for was to make sure that we can still shoot fireworks in Lookout Valley. I do have a question though for our city attorney. I guess it's maybe under number 6, and I don't know if the excessive noise goes with the. There should be a number 7.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they just got 7's in the wrong. So excessive noise on a residential street, basically. So I guess my question is, if I go out into my street to shoot my fireworks, I see in one place I can do that between certain hours, but would number 7 prevent me from doing it? Or because we've actually specified in this ordinance that I guess you might say, if they're prohibited during certain hours, that almost by default means they're allowed during certain hours. So even if I go out into the street to shoot them, will I be okay?
The aspect of.
Because that happens all the time.
Is specifically set out in paragraph 10, saying that it's unlawful to set them off after 11:30, except on New Year's Eve, when the hours prohibited shall be 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. So we are allowed them one day a year, which is a time, manner, and place restriction here on that. If you want to broaden that out, we can do that.
Whoa.
No, that's not.
Any day of the week I can shoot them.
Right.
until 11:30. That's the way I read this. It just, it extends the day on New Year's Eve.
Do you shoot off fireworks in the daytime and look out that?
There's no telling when we shoot fireworks. My question is, though, the excessive noise, could somebody call and say the noise is excessive?
Yes.
And they have to shut it down, even though the same ordinance allows it to be done? Is there a conflict there, I guess is what I'm asking.
The aspect is what is disturbing your neighbors in connection with this. And if it disturbs your neighbors and your neighbors complain, then they would at least have an ability to ask you to not do that. If you did not do so, then they could ask the police department to come.
So that would even apply to a leaf blower during those hours if it was disturbing my neighbor.
If there are leaf blowers that are done where they're bugging your next door neighbors, that's what we're trying to be more neighborly in these areas. You also have more distance between your neighbors in suburban areas under current zoning requirements than you do in other areas.
So-
Downtown amplified district.
So I guess my question is, does number 7 sort of trump, pardon the pun, but does number 7 trump all of the other things that I can do during the allowable hours?
We were trying to get a catch-all to not say that, I guess the sound of every animal has to be listed, the sound of every machine that you might use. We were trying to do that as number 7. If there's some concern about it's overreaching, then we can limit that.
Now, Phil,
Yes.
does number 7 trump the item specifically called out in the ordinance?
Number 7 is specifically talking about excessive noise.
Anything other than stated in the ordinance?
Anything other than stated in the.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, am I understanding that if it is allowed by this ordinance, the excessive noise would not apply to
Correct.
it? Is that what I'm understanding from the city attorney?
Your city attorney is not going to say it's okay to set off fireworks in multiple successions all during the day, other than after the hour of 11:30 until 12:30 a.m.
Or my leaf blower? My leaf blower is pretty
The
loud.
leaf blower, I don't think will be a problem.
That one's covered in leaf blower's covered in number 9, sir.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure excessive
protect-
noise didn't,
Hey, Phil.
I supercharged my
let
leaf
me,
blower.
let me jump
so
in
it's
here
pretty
really
loud.
quick. If excessive is number 7, can we add the language to number 7 that says unless otherwise stipulated in this ordinance?
Sure.
Great.
That
Covered.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, sir. Moving on. Vice Chair Dotley.
Yes, so my question is about some of the definitions here in regards to suburban. It says prohibited noises in suburban residential zones. Does that include urban residential areas? 'Cause I know in some spaces it says residential communities. And I know living downtown comes with its share of noises and people are aware of that. But some of the areas like when I think about like St. Elmo, South Chattanooga, East Lake, even though they're in the urban core, not necessarily considered suburban, would they still be included within this?
I think it should be.
Okay.
Yes, and specifically, we define what is the downtown amplified music district in the ordinance on here, and there's a map that actually shows what that area is, and it doesn't include some of those other areas outside of downtown.
Okay, and can we get and maybe I missed it, but can we get a copy of the map so we can see that?
Yes,
And, okay, so the suburban I just want to be clear, the suburban residential zones actually do include urban residential zones as well, and it'll be shown, something here say, as shown on the attached map. Something to that effect. Okay,
And we actually, it's in our ordinance, and I'll get you a copy of the map, but it's under 2567. We've defined the downtown amplified music district to be Main Street areas, West Main Broad, MLK Boulevard, to certain areas here, Market Street, Broad Street, and Georgia Avenue. So there's a specific area, and we'll get you a copy of the map.
okay, that works. And then those, and of course, this doesn't apply to anybody, and I just want to make sure it's on the record as far as our discussion. And this ordinance doesn't apply to anyone in the downtown amplified music district area, right? No, okay. And what, okay, well, I asked later. I convened with, I guess I had a question about the amplified music district in regards to kind of what's the status or what is going on. I mean, is it a board? Is it still a board or is it obsolete?
It is allowed to be noisier because if you're in an area here where there's a lot of musical
I should
events,
expect
things
it.
like that, correct.
Okay,
That is allowed in those areas, and there's specific decibel levels that are allowed that are different in that district than other areas before. That's why we were trying to deal with the aspects of away from music districts.
okay. All right, that works. Thank you so much.
You good, Vice Chair?
Yes, I am.
Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Councilwoman Dotley read my mind about, I've got suburban versus residential and what counts as suburban. The downtown amplified music district is really very, very small. But a large part of my district might not be considered suburban and yet has significant problems with noise. But the noise that happens doesn't necessarily occur from a residential area. So my biggest noise complaints are motorcycles, which is not just in my district, but those motorcycles are traveling Veterans Bridge, Market Street Bridge, and Hickson Pike specifically. I think then they head on to 153. But so there is a lot of noise, not only from motorcycles, but also from modified vehicles that have glass pipe mufflers that are exceedingly loud. And also Coolidge Park and Renaissance Park have become the hot place to sit with your fancy pants car and rev your engine at length. So my challenge with this is I don't know that any of this ordinance as rewritten addresses any of those problems.
We have in number 5, the operation of vehicles
Mhm.
section, and maybe we need to beef that up to deal with specific type of muffler issues that you might have.
Well, and in any residential community is part of the challenge. I mean, if you're in Renaissance Park, you're adjacent to a very large residential development in District 1. But if you're in Coolidge Park, I mean, you're 2 streets over from residential, and yet people, I mean, until 11, 12, 2 o'clock at night are hearing this. I mean, Chief Murphy and Lieutenant Williams have been so integral in discussing this with our district. And I mean, I'm happy to use some ARP money to help buy some of these decibel cameras, these sound cameras, if that's going to be useful. But I'm having some trouble with this wording of suburban and residential, because if this sound is happening on Hickson Pike and my house is 2 or 3 streets over, I mean, I can hear trains from the Bend area at my house across the river when it's cold because noise travels. So help me understand how we get to an ordinance that can solve any of those problems.
We definitely need to include the aspect of parks in the definition of communities here. And we might need to
Yes.
include some sort of distance location, because if you can say within a specific distance where it can be heard, that may be what we.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see some, yeah, the parks is a great way to start addressing that. And yeah, the operation of vehicles, I don't know that grating, grinding, rattling is any of the issue so much as revving and just loud running of vehicles. Also, I wonder, y'all, we have a lot of different times for things. Like Chip can run his supercharged leaf blower until 9, but Ken can only hoot in the street until 8.
I can get it done by 8 though.
And then Chip can turn around and do fireworks until 11:30 every day. But you can't collect trash after 8. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we just got numbers all over the place. And I mean, I don't have an answer for that. That's a question of what you're allowed. You're allowed to do I mean, I get daylight, I guess, with leaf blowers versus hooting and shouting.
Depends on how quickly your neighbors are getting up sometimes here with those leaf blowers.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 7 a.m. is consistent, but it's our 9, 11, and 8 that are all over the place.
Some people go to bed earlier than others potentially. But now these numbers are, we can develop uniform numbers if we have that throughout the city. But fireworks, you can't see fireworks till after dark. That's what I thought, Jesse.
But why can you run a leaf blower until 9 and you can't yell or hawk or shout or whistle until 8
I think they're right.
or sing in the street?
No more Christmas caroling.
Not loud anyway. You gotta be quiet about it.
Okay, so getting back, Councilwoman, are you done?
I guess I just have, yes, I think Phil has some thoughts from me that he can work on. I want.
Councilwoman Burrs. It is a
Yeah,
noise
you're
ordinance we're
gone, man.
discussing, isn't it?
So, I'm fine. We tossed in different times simply because we didn't know what y'all would go with. 8 o'clock is good with me, but if it stays late till 10, can somebody run things till 9? We could do 8:30. How about 8:30? 8:30. Phil, 8:30. That's a good compromise. 7, 8:30. I still don't have, all kidding aside, I still don't have a straight answer about the fireworks. So I think, Chip, I don't think you were saying, well, maybe you were, I don't know, but I don't think you were saying that any time of the day or night up until 9, you can run fireworks.
Up until 11:30 any day.
Well, right now it says 11:30.
That's correct.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, but I've got 2 questions here. If we're trying to say that people get in residential areas, whether they're downtown or out in the burbs, wherever, what we were trying to say, and thank you so much for all of this, is that, when it's 9 o'clock at night or 8:30 at night, when it's 8:30 at night, enough already, people want to go to sleep. They want to do whatever. They don't want motorcycles, firecrackers, whatever it is that's annoying them. And I think we all agree that's true. What I think we don't have clear is the firecracker thing, in all seriousness, because I'm hearing more and more of that, and it needs to be able to stop if we're going to do it every day, whenever, then it's got to stop earlier than 11:30. And I'll tell you, it's gotten to the point now, particularly in the summertime, New Year's Eve and stuff, at least in my area, where people are putting up firecrackers Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a holiday, man. And it does disturb quiet enjoyment. So I'm cool with New Year's Eve. You could even add another holiday to that, the 4th of July, if you want it. But I think it needs to stop before 11:30, particularly on weeknights. So it's just something I'd like you to think about. I do agree. I like the input about the sound. I think let's make it 8:30. And I don't think we're trying to mess in people's lives. We're trying to stop the noise and the unnecessary noise and let people have quiet enjoyment. And remember, this is complaint driven. If on your street you decide to have a big firework party, go for it. Go for it even later than 9. Remember, it's complaint driven. The police aren't out there waiting to see what time it is. It's complaint driven. So let's be kind to the least of us. And if we have good neighbors, then tell them ahead of time. Let's have a firework party. Nobody's going to complain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Henderson. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, so maybe, we all like the word compromise, I guess. You know, if we extended the hours on the weekends, I don't particularly, I'm not in favor of limiting it to a day. But maybe if we shorten the hours on a work day or a weekday, Monday through Thursday, and then we extended the hours Friday through Sunday, you know, maybe we could all live with that. But I don't know about, I mean, limited to 8 o'clock, maybe limited to 10 o'clock on weekdays. I mean, how many of y'all go to bed at before 10 o'clock besides me? I would be the only one that would be kept up by those late night fireworks.
You good, Councilman?
I'm good.
Councilman Hester.
I think 9 o'clock is probably a great time. I have a lot of residents that are veterans, and that's something about those fireworks go off, man. They go out there and man, they're ready for for battle. So it sparks something, I guess, mentally for some of those guys who were veterans, and even those who are aged, the elderly too. It's a good thing we move it back to 9 o'clock, especially in the and some of the areas that outside the downtown area. I think 9 o'clock probably a good time.
Good.
I'm good.
All right. Any other thoughts, concerns? I think this piece of legislation probably needs a little bit more work or suggestions, Mr. Attorney, before we're able to move it forward, Councilwoman. But I think for the most part, it seems agreeable. It's like times that seem to be kind of the holdup for the council. So I don't know that we need to hear this item again in committee, but we probably do need to have some kind of schedule. Mr. Chair, I don't know how you want to handle that we do bring it back up. Do we want to leave it on strategic planning and further discuss hours at a strategic planning? Because I think the content is probably solid. It's just the time on a couple of these items that need to be firmed up. Sounds good.
Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, we can. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Put that on for our next strategic planning. I think we're running a little wide, so it could be a timeline. Thank you.
All right, anything further to come before the legislative committee at this time? If not, we're adjourned till 6. Thank you.